Hey, welcome to Trauma and Beyond. Trauma and Beyond. Trauma and Beyond. I heard you're feeling kind of stressed, feeling kind of depressed. I heard you're doing a real mess. Welcome to Trauma and Beyond. Trauma and Beyond. Welcome and Beyond. Trauma and Beyond. Trauma and Beyond.
Hey, you know who it is. It is Tamelia Cormier all day. Welcome back to Trauma and Beyond. Today's date is July 1st, 2020. It's been a while since I have tuned in. I am so excited to continue the journey of Trauma and Beyond. I'm so excited to present something beautiful to my listeners that can help them get through the trauma that they've suffered from, are continuing to suffer through right now. So, last time I tuned in for Trauma and Beyond, we talked about accepting trauma, and so much has happened since then that I almost feel like it would not do this segment justice to just continue with the protocol. I mean, there's so much that has happened since February and March. I mean, the state has went on lockdown and stay-at-home orders, COVID-19 spreading, racial wars, racial protests. I mean, there is a serious pandemic still going on actually right now, and I feel like it would not do the current status of our nation justice if I just skate by that. And though I did talk about accepting trauma, and I still want to talk about identifying trauma, I really want to touch base on that before just going into something else, because I do want to give homage to what is happening in our world right now and not just act like it's not going on, because I'm definitely not oblivious to the facts, and I'm definitely not ignorant to the fact, because if you really think about it, racial profiling and racial injustice, that is still a form of trauma. Pardon me. Had a little yawn. You guys know, if you listen, you know I got a yawn issue. So I'm apologizing in advance. I have chronic yawn disease. If that's a real thing. I got it. Because for some reason I just have random yawns and I can't control them. So I gave up on trying to record without yawning. So if you hear me yawning, don't think I'm tired, don't think I'm rude. I really have no control over it. For some reason when I'm talking, it's like some people talking, they get nervous and they laugh. For some reason when I'm talking, I yawn. So don't tell me why. I have no idea. But like I was saying, racial injustice, racial profiling, racism experiences, that is racial trauma. And that is something that it dwells deep in someone's mind, it dwells deep in their soul and their heart, because if you never experienced it, you don't know how to feel about it. You can't live someone else's experience. And if you're not an African American, you're never going to know what that experience feels like. Or if you're not an African American or a person of color. But even the LGBTQ community, they suffer from their own profiling and injustice. So we all got a battle. It just might not be the same battle. African Americans, our battle is the fact that we have to battle just because the color of our skin. That's the gist of our battle. is that we have to struggle. We have to battle. We have to prove ourselves. We have to provide information to prove that we belong in some place because of the color of our skin. It's not because we look suspicious. Because at the end of the day, it's your color looks suspicious. You know? I'm currently in the middle of relocating to a different neighborhood, and it's a I'm not gonna lie, it's a predominantly white neighborhood. And one of the thoughts that crossed my mind was, is this neighborhood safe for me to be in because I am black? Am I gonna have to constantly prove that I belong here? I'm not gonna tell you no lie. That is what crossed my mind. I told my kids I wanted to go knock on the neighbors' doors, because there's a few, I think about 7 of us. And, I told my kids I wanted to go knock on the doors and go meet the neighbors. And then I immediately recanted. And I was like, ooh, I don't know. What if I open the door to the wrong kind of neighbor? What if the neighbor don't like me, or don't like the fact that this black woman and her noisy kids are coming to move in with, in their little uppity neighborhood, and so that crossed my mind. And it's like, as a Caucasian, I don't think Caucasian people have these thoughts when they move. I don't think they think, hey, am I going to get treated unjust for going over to meet my neighbor because of how I look? That's not a thought that crosses their mind. I don't need anybody to tell me that. I know that for a fact, that that's not something that they have to worry about. And that's the privilege that. And so for me, I have to be very cautious. Like, I drove around the neighborhood. I wanted to see what kind of people were around the neighborhood, what kind of signs were in the neighborhood, what kind of flags are being promoted in the neighborhood. I was serious. And I was very pleased to see all the Black Lives Matter posters in the neighborhood. A lot of LGBTQ posters were in the neighborhood, and and they had a lot of rainbow flags and black flags and fist flags. And I ain't gonna lie, I was so, it just took so much anxiety and stress off of me to know that my kids can probably play over here and they might be all right. We might be cool. I don't think we're going to have issues. And I have a temper problem when injustice is being served toward me. And so I'm just not the right one to bring racism toward, because I will serve you swift justice, verbally, mentally, emotionally, and physically if I have to. And so no matter what, in everything I do and every choice I make, I always think about what would Jesus do. I don't just go straight to violence or anything like that. It's always a deliberation, Anywho, that was just something I really wanted to clear the air with, and, make really known that racism is trauma, and Black people suffer from that. Our Black children suffer from it all the time in school. What other people see as, a normal day in school might not actually be a normal day in school. If you really think about all the special education classes, particularly the SEL programs, social emotional learning SPED classes, there's predominantly Black kids in there, and predominantly boys. Or it's either children of color, Latino, Mexican, Hispanic, Black, Samoan, but it's predominantly a child of color that is in the SEL programs. Sometimes, and there's girls, but mostly boys, and it's like extra. It's like a practice. It's like the practice to prison. In this case, the prison to pipeline, but I call it the practice to prison. You know, they're in this room, secluded from the rest of the general population. They get told when to eat. They get told when to do work. They get told when to have outside time. They get told when to have a break time. And it's all being, you know, they have no say so in what their classroom, you know, structure looks like. No say so in what their classroom looks like. You know, they got them bright, pale prison lights and these long hallways that, you know, like they walking down the Green Mile. You know, it's you know, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like there's not a lot of effort into the SEL programs in schools in general, and that they're setting all those children of color up for failure. So that's just my personal opinion. As a mother, as an educator, that's my personal opinion, that they don't do enough. They just don't do enough, and that is, I can't really speak for everybody else, but you know, I do my part the best that I can. I'm actually going to be joining a Zoom in a couple days to speak and listen on ways that we can better provide for our Black children in the school systems, and what we can do to better support the families of these Black children, and how our schools can do better and what that looks like, and hear their input. And I appreciate the schools, you know, providing a platform like that, because some schools just don't give a damn. And they get, and a lot of people don't know, these special education classes are in those schools, and those schools are being provided funding. They are provided extra funding specifically to do for those special education classes. So like if they're not going on field trips and not going to learn and not going on learning expeditions, that means they're just sitting on funding, or they're using funding for something else and not on the whole purpose of them receiving the funding. You know, I'm not going to lie. I got trust issues when it comes to school. My son, you know, he's an African American boy, and we suffered severely by the school, and we just were not taken care of. And I'm not going to lie. I have like trauma, like parental trauma, or special education system trauma. I don't know what kind of trauma to call it, but we had such a terrible experience that I don't trust anybody in these schools no more. So I make it my duty to make sure that I'm close to my child's school, that I'm ready and I'm available. And you know, and I'm just fortunate enough that I was able to meet some really good people who really genuinely care about my son and care about his education, and care about him becoming a better person overall. And so not everybody's a bad person, you know, and not everybody is bad, you know, and sometimes we make mistakes and make bad choices, and the thing about that is you just have to learn from your mistakes and not continue to make them. Like some people will say, I'm not racist, but they continue to do racist things, say racist things, and commit racist actions, but then keep saying they're not racist. When the truth is, they're ignorant to the fact that they are racist. You know, those are racist things, and that is what racism is. And the worst thing about racism is when people don't realize they're racist and they genuinely believe they're not racist, but they continue to say and do racist things. And then you have those friendly African Americans who just kind of chuckle it off or nudge it off, and it's like, nah, bruh, we can't do that no more. That's not gonna work no more. Y'all gotta stand up, speak up, and address it right then, right there. Don't matter where you are, how embarrassing it is. I mean, clearly you need to be appropriate, and if it's just genuinely not the time or place, you still need to make sure you address that when they come outside. I wouldn't say address it in the church, but you can politely and privately, but I wouldn't do it, abruptly, or wait till service is over. Do whatever you need to do, but you make sure swift justice is served and you serve it up raw. No sugarcoating, because that's the problem. People be sugarcoating when people are racist. So then they don't get the full effect of the fact that they were racist. So I say, to your racist experience, address it. As a child, you don't really have a voice. You can't address it, especially if you don't got anybody rooting for you in your corner. Because I went through a lot of racist experiences as a child. I think my first experience of racism, I was 4.5 or 5 years old. I mean, we're kids, so it's racism, but we don't know that, I didn't know that. Maybe my older brother at the time knew it, but I didn't know it. Me and my brothers and sisters were walking from our house. We lived in a pretty poor neighborhood. We were living in Holly Park at the time. And we walked by this man's yard. I think we were on the sidewalk, but his door swung open so fast that it startled us, and he came out, and I promise you, it was like in the movies, like straight up hillbilly movie. It was like a movie, because he was heavy set, had on overalls, dingy t-shirt. I mean, it was for real, like the movies. And I know that you know what I'm talking about when I tell you the overalls and the dingy white t-shirt and heavy set. And he whipped it out, this big old shotgun, and pointed it at us. Me, my younger sister, my 2 older brothers. And he told us, "Hey, get off my lawn, you little niggers." And of course, we didn't stick around. Somebody pointed a shotgun at you. Are you going to stick around? No, sorry, Bob. So we got up out of there. We ran home. Told our mom what happened. But, it's hard times for her at that time. And, it was just another day. We went about our business like it never happened. I had a pistol pulled on me by an Asian store owner, because apparently I fit the profile of another 11-year-old girl who stole a bag of chips. And I'm trying to figure out, since when did stealing a bag of chips become something you need to pull a gun out on somebody for? But the fact that I was not asked who I was or investigated or interviewed, and just you saw a young black girl with a ponytail, and apparently I was guilty. And that's what bothered me the most. I was 5 feet, black, and had a ponytail. That was the description. And at that time, I think I was probably like 4'9", 4'11", who knows? But how many black girls between the height 4'11" and 5 feet and wear a ponytail? How many girls fit that description in Seattle? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. And so, and it goes on, and, I'm not going to dwell on all that, but it happens. And it happens to our babies starting in the delivery room, contrary to what people believe. It starts soon as they find out, you pregnant. You'll get women or men at Planned Parenthood trying to you go in there for a pregnancy test, and the first words out of their mouth is, "Oh, well, you're young. Why don't you get an abortion? You sure you want to do this?" Those are the ones who know you getting ready to have another black baby, and they don't want another black child in their precious, privileged white world. And that is the, what do you call that? Oh yes, the subtle racism. They won't be straight up racist with you, but they'll do things to kind of hide the racism. Encouraging young teens, between 14 and 17 to get abortions instead of supporting them and asking them what their choices are. Or encouraging black women to get their tubes tied right after, prior to giving birth when there's a C-section involved. Oh, we can get you a tubal, we can get you a tubal tie right here, right now. Are you interested? Those kind of things. And it's like, why? For what? I know a woman who, they got her tubes tied at 19 and she didn't have any kids. And I said, usually they won't let you do that. And then it's crazy because I have that experience. I had that friend who was African American who was permitted to get her tubes tied at 19, no kids. But then I also have a Caucasian friend who's older who has 2 boys, and she is 34 and wanted to get her tubes tied, but they would not do it without feeling comfortable enough that she was sure she didn't want to have a girl child. And so they denied doing it for until she turned 35 or 36. And I'm like, really? That's interesting. But you can see the difference in the way the world works, And that's just, when that happens to you enough, it becomes traumatizing. Things like that. Things like the police driving by you and you getting anxiety about that. That's trauma. When you hear music, you in your car and you listening to your music and you hear that police siren that got you tripping, sounding like a phantom cry, and you looking in your mirror because you're worried that the police are behind you, that's trauma. When you cannot get pulled over by the police and be absolutely 100% confident that you're not doing nothing wrong and that they're just going to come and say whatever and move on about their way, that's trauma. When you know you're not doing nothing wrong, but the only thing on your mind is, am I going to die today because a racist cop wants to mess with me? That's trauma. And so I say to all of my non-African American people and my non-people of color, check your bias and check your privilege, because you do have it. And if you really support Black Lives Matter and you really support racial justice, you need to stand up and you need to speak out about it. You need to use your privilege every chance you get. When you see something wrong, you need to say that it's wrong when it's wrong. Stop being Karens, okay? Don't be a Karen. Be a community supporter. Be a community activist. Be a friend. Be an ear. Be a shoulder to cry on. Be available. Go meet the people in your community. Go talk to a person of color. Go talk to an African American. Learn about our story. Learn about our struggles. Learn about us before you judge us. Get to know somebody that you don't know. And if we intimidate you, if black people intimidate you, are you fear of them? You need to go meet some black people. and you need to go get to know some black people. Okay? We don't bite. We don't bite. We only human. And really, we pretty cool people. Now, I understand there are some people who are really aggressive, violent, angry, and just downright disrespectful, but that's everybody. And that's in every culture. There's going to be some people like that. But you can't judge people because of the stuff you watch on the internet or TV. And you can't judge people just because. You know? Everybody deserves due justice. And everybody deserves a clean slate. And everybody deserves to be treated without judgment. You know? When my fiance walk on an elevator, he deserves for a white woman to not clench her purse. He deserves that. Every black man deserves that. We are not ferocious animals viciously out to attack people. We are human beings. We are God's children, just like everyone else. And we all deserve the same equal rights and equal justice. And we deserve to be black, and we deserve to be legally black. And we deserve to live our lives without being prosecuted for being black. Nobody deserves that kind of life. Nobody deserves to live like that. And our children don't deserve to live in fear. That to the point when they hear the police, they're running behind cars and hiding, are feeling anxiety, are checking in with their parents, saying things like, Dad, you got your seatbelt on? Mom, you got your seatbelt on? Okay. Can you put your wallet? Don't reach for anything. Like, kids don't need to be saying stuff like that. Are your Caucasian kids saying stuff like that? Are Asian kids saying stuff like that when the police pull their parents over? I don't think so. And there's a lot of cultures that suffered the same fate that black people did at one point in history. And I think a lot of those people need to really remember that they used to be in the same boat. And so, you know, I'm just saying. Remember, this land wasn't no United States when it started. It's the Native Americans' land, and it was taken. And so, when people wonder why everyone has been rioting and protesting and acting a damn fool, it's because they've had people show them that this is the way to go to get what you want. Because I highly doubt that some white Americans came over and said, hey, Native Americans, how you doing? We're wondering if you spare us your land and, let us have it. You guys just go on about your business. I don't think it went down like that. I have a feeling that there was a lot more than just that. And so there's been an example given on how to overthrow and how to hostilely take over. I'm just saying. No, I'm just say that. That's all I'm gonna say about that. But I will say this: if you have ever suffered any kind of racial trauma, just know that you're not alone, and it is real, and it's okay to feel those feelings that you feel. I mean, there's this stigma about black men not being able to cry and black men not being able to be soft and sensitive or sentimental. And, I'm going to call bull on all of that because our black men need to feel. They need to feel something. They need to feel the softness of a woman. They need to feel the softness of being loved, the softness of a hug, because this world will chew them up and spit them out and step on them a little bit more. And the last thing we as black women should be doing is tearing down our black man. I promise you, we are not helping the situation. No matter where they go, don't nobody love them. But God, I know God loves them. And the least we can do is love our black man, because this world is just, it's cruel to them. And there's always a cell somewhere in a prison sitting there waiting for them to be, to be there. Waiting for more black men to fill up their prisons that are not helping them engage as human beings, that are not helping them become better human beings, that are not teaching them a lesson, that are not educating them better, are giving them the social emotional learning skills that they need, or anger management skills they need, or parenting classes they need, because that's what should be in the prisons. These prisons aren't doing anything for anybody. All that's doing is causing them more trauma and isolation. So what? They can get out of prison and be more angrier and more selfish and more isolated than they started off going in. The prison system is ridiculous. That's just my personal opinion. I mean, a non-violent crime, gets you in prison, and then you get into prison and you suffer more in prison with being raped and beat up and shanked and malnutritioned and lack of health care for what? Because you stole $200 from a store or something, that's nah. The price you pay for that it's a price that's too high. So we got to do better as people. And a lot of people are out here acting that way and stealing because the world is fixed. It's a fixed world to where you have to work and slave just to survive. You can't be here for your family. Your whole life you gotta work. It's like a machine. You work. Don't get a lot of time with your kids, and you work some more, and you get to see them a little bit. So, people get, and it's not for a lot of money, or you have to go to school for a long time. And we all know that black kids are the disproportionate few in the schools. So getting to college it's hard for children of color. It's hard. I'm 33 years old. I'm 3 years in college, man. I've been working on the same degree for almost 4 years, a 2-year degree, because it's harder, you gotta work harder than the typical average person. And so I don't think people realize that. So we need to be there for our kids. We need to be there for our black man, and we gotta be strong. And just know that God's gonna get us through all the trials and tribulations that we are going to face and most likely continue to face. And I just really wanted to say, don't deny your racial trauma. Identify your racial trauma. Accept your racial trauma. And don't shy away from it. Identify it. Acknowledge it. Dwell in it. But don't be okay with it. I will say that. And whoever is giving you the racial trauma, if you feel like there is some kind of racial injustice happening, whether it's at work, whether it's while you're working with students and you witness it, you need to speak up. I don't care if your job is at risk. You either stand for something or you continue to fall for nothing. I have risked my job several times because of racial injustice that I've witnessed. Not my current job, but a couple years ago. I just wasn't having it. It was not going to happen, not on my watch, not in my sight, not in front of me, not now, not ever, not in the future, not tomorrow. And that's just me. So I just want to thank you all for tuning in. I just want to say welcome back to Trauma and Beyond. I'm super excited. I'm hoping that I can be consistent and make sure that I'm here every week for you all. If you have any comments or you want to leave me a message, just log on to my Anchor and just click on message, and you can leave me a voicemail message, and I'll be more than happy to listen to it. If you're interested in joining me on one of these podcasts, please let me know. You can email me at missionarycormier, MISSIONARYCORMIER at yahoo.com, or you can always Facebook me at Trauma and Beyond. So, anywho, it's been wonderful. I love you all so much.